Welcome to Cycling Fashion Week, the only global podcast purely focused on cycling style, fashion, fits, lifestyle, and everything around it, including culture. I am your host, Alex. We are back in the saddle for another episode of Cycling Fashion Week. You've got 4 hosts this week. You have Warren, who actually never seems to miss an episode.
Never.
You got me. And you also have Italian Alex and Skyler, who are joining us this week. Tony is away. He has a 3-month-old, as you listeners know. So he's going to be he's going to be absent a little bit more in the next few episodes. But yeah, we have Italian Alex and Skyler. So all-star crew on the podcast today. How are you all doing?
Good.
I'm great.
Italian Alex, this is a podcast. People cannot see your gestures.
I know. I was just signaling. I'm never really sure who should go first.
So we are firmly into, I guess, I don't know, we're not yet into the summer, but we're firmly into the cycling season, maybe a little bit more for the 3 of you than for me. You seem to be riding considerably more than I am, but any highlights of your riding season so far?
I just got back today actually from Charlevoix, which is the most beautiful stage race in Quebec, in my opinion. It's in Bay St. Paul, and it was 3 days, 4 stages, and it's just all climbing out there.
How was that? How'd your race go?
It was good. It went well. On GC, I ended up coming 8th. My goal was 5th, so it wasn't, or top 5, I guess. My goal was top 5, but it didn't go as well as I would have liked. But I think each stage I did as much as I could do, and yeah, the girls in Quebec and just from Ontario and Quebec are so strong. So nothing more I could really have done there. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was beautiful. And then driving back this way, I was like, why don't I live there? There's such nice riding that way as I got towards Toronto.
Charlevoix is beautiful. I did the Grinduro there in 2019, which, you know, our listeners will probably be quick to point out is a gravel event.
What craft beer did they serve after the Grinduro?
All of them, all of the Quebec craft beers. I don't remember because it's party to ride ratio or whatever their tagline is. So there was like a bunch of French bands that played afterwards. It was a very French event, actually. I was surprised. I think that's why maybe Grinduro Canada seems to have failed. Anyway, the riding was beautiful. Like the great weather, beautiful mountains, tons of climbing. Yeah,
it's a nice region. It's just a bit out of the way, though.
Yes.
You know, from Toronto, I guess it's like an 8-hour or 9-hour drive or something.
It was a
like
10-hour drive.
It took us like 11 hours maybe on.
Even for me from Montreal, it's 2.5 to 3 hours to Quebec City, and then it's another 90 minutes. Like it's a little bit involved getting there, but it's beautiful region. The views on the St. Lawrence River. St. Lawrence River is very wide at that point. Incredible views. And for those listeners who are into skiing as well, incredible skiing out there. I think we have to talk about the newest Netflix sensation that has come out recently. The new show, it dropped last week, I believe. Yeah. It's been less than a week or from the moment we record this. Tour de France Unchained, which is a ridiculous name. By the way, the French version is Tour de France au cœur du peloton, which translates as in the heart of the peloton, which I think is much better. Mm-hmm. But in English, they went like Unchained, which kind of sounds like a Fox News kind of debate show with Tucker Carlson, rest in peace, and other people. Anyway, no spoilers. I'm 4 episodes through. Warren binged the whole thing already. I think Italian Alex, you're also kind of halfway through. I'm not sure where you're at, but what did you all think about that?
Our good friends over at Escape Collective, they keep talking about spoilers. You can't really spoil this because the race happened a year ago. Having watched the whole show, all 8 episodes, I don't know if there's that much you could really spoil. Like there's not huge surprises. I do think it's interesting to like get this look behind the scenes at some of the teams, and it's also interesting. I found the most interesting thing as somebody who watched Drive to Survive, the F1 show that this is apparently sort of related to. It's funny to watch this version and see where the manufactured drama is and be like, well, that's not really a thing or doesn't seem to actually be the reality. So that's kind of funny. I was surprised to see our good friend David Millar pop up. We didn't know he was going to be adding some color commentary about the tour in general and just race tactics. So that was a pretty exciting moment. That's the only real spoiler, I guess, is he pops up at, I think, episode 2. You know, you just have to watch it for what it is. Like, it's not for cycling purist fans. It's for new people. So they don't really get a lot right about how the tour really works. They don't really explain all the jerseys at all, to be honest. But I liked it.
I'm watching it right now with my girlfriend, who's not a cyclist and has no real connection to the cycling world aside from me. Even for people that aren't in cycling, it's particularly enjoyable even still. She's really liking it. And I did have to explain some of the context to her, but despite that, for the most part, I think it does a decent job, even though it doesn't cover all aspects of the tour, and they could have made it more exciting by doing that, of creating a narrative that people that aren't into cycling can follow. To that end, because she didn't watch the tour last year because she's not into cycling, I think when they reference spoilers, it's really in the, or for the benefit of those people that aren't in cycling, because my girlfriend said the same thing to me. She was like, "Don't tell me who wins," and I was like, "But it happened a year ago." So you could just look this up. But I think in the name of keeping the plot exciting, she hasn't like looked up last year's tour or anything. So we're just following it stage by stage as they kind of bounce through the teams. And to be fair, even as someone who like watched basically the whole tour last year, I don't really remember who won each stage.
Yeah.
So even though I watched the tour, so to speak, it is still a bit gripping to watch all the episodes because I kind of forgot who won, and then I remember as we go through the episode.
I did find it funny, and it'd be interesting to see how your girlfriend reacts, Alex. And this isn't really a spoiler for you, but in the last couple episodes towards the end of the tour, they're talking about how Pogacar is like, could be coming back, but in reality, he's down like 2.5 minutes with like a stage left. And it's just like, in the show, it's just like, oh my God, Pogacar's like, he could come. And it's like, no, he can't. And again, that's the kind of thing you wouldn't understand, which is fine. And I get why they're playing it that way, because so I'll be interested to see how, if she thinks it's like, oh wow, like super close. And because it was just kind of funny to be like, no, it's over.
Anyone that's not into cycling is really just going off the information that's in the show, right? So if they manufacture that arc of a comeback, like, you're not going to not believe it. And like I that kind of like false narrative has already played out in the first couple episodes we watch, because in the first few episodes they kind of insinuate that Wout wasn't helping his teammates achieve the GC when he was going for his solo breakaway victories. And then like today, or maybe yesterday, it just came out in North American media today, Wout called the show out for manufacturing that falsehood to create a narrative, because I guess that really wasn't the case.
You know what they didn't manufacture though is Wout's hair in the show, which features prominently and is just glorious. I mean, the frosted tips. When you see those kind of one-on-one interviews with Wout, the only thing I can look at is the frosted tips. I think it's incredible. There's the one thing I find interesting about the show too is the internal dynamics of certain teams. Give you a few examples. Like, for example, one thing I found fascinating is Ben O'Connor, who admittedly didn't have a great tour last year after he finished 4th in 2021. But what's really interesting about Ben O'Connor is he's kind of the lone English-speaking Australian with a huge accent, by the way, on like a very, very French team. And he just seems so lost, like in that team. It just seems kind of so socially awkward. It's like, you know, you go to a party where it's all a group of friends, but they don't really make you feel all that welcome. Like, it feels like that with Ben O'Connor as part of that team. So I just thought that was fascinating. The lone kind of Australian on what's a very, very French team. So there's little bits like that in the show that are interesting. I am worried though, Warren, you brought up the Drive to Survive Formula One show. I'm worried that this is going to make cycling too big and that cycling will get too popular. I want cycling to remain niche. I want cycling to remain small. And I'm just worried, like in the last few years, it's kind of exploded. It's falling back down a little bit, but you know, the level of popularity of cycling relative to 5 years ago is so much higher. And I don't like that. I want to keep it small.
One thing you don't have to worry about, Alex, I think, is I was watching these and, they're condensing these stages down in these like exciting little like 2-minute bursts. People are going to tune into the tour this year and, flip it on and there's 150 kilometers to go and nothing's happening. People are going to be like, where's the fucking race? So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think people will just wait for the show next year.
You think people are going to get excited about intermediate sprints and bringing back the
I'm not
breakaway
excited
by
that.
10 seconds?
No, not at all. I don't share those concerns, but we'll have to wait and see. There's too much French, I think, in the show for it to be as popular as Drive to Survive. Too many subtitles, which I'm fine with it. I just mean for it to be on that same level. Most of everybody on Drive to Survive is speaking English, whether or not it's their first language.
Anyway, nice to see cycling on Netflix, but I don't want it to get too big. I'd like them to stop now, if possible. Last little discussion before we go into our main segments. Italian Alex wanted to review the Grin 27 kit that he got. Grin 27 kit, small brand out of Los Angeles. We did an interview with them. So, Alex, what do you got to say about the Grin 27 kit?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on this really quickly before we kind of went into the main segments. And finally got my hands on the kit after we had our great interview with Danny from Grin 27 a couple weeks back. I got the pink jersey and the brown bibs. They don't have many kit options available yet because it's in early days for the company, so it's pretty easy to figure out which ones they are. And I've now taken them on a few short cafe rides and some longer, harder smash rides in Ontario, Canada. I gotta say, I'm really impressed with the kit. The jersey fits really well. It's like an Aero race fit. The bibs are very similar in the fit to my MAAP Team Evo bibs. The one thing I would say though for both is that I had to size down. So if you're used to having like an Aero race fit with brands like MAAP and Rafa and Panormal in a medium, I would recommend a small to make it fit nice and tight. If you go true to size, it'll be more of like a loose club fit. And yeah, just overall really impressed with the jersey. I've gotten a ton of compliments on it.
I have definitely been there for like at least 24 of those compliments. Watching Alex just get complimented on his kit, I'm like, yeah, it looks so good. And my favorite one was on a ride, I think it was a week or two ago, and someone's like, sparkle butt, because the kit has a little sparkle above the left butt cheek. And I was like, I love that. I can confirm I've seen Alex wear the kit on the bike, and it looks really good. It's like my favorite kit, I think, in his rotation right now. So
I think it's worth mentioning, Alex, that you actually, just because sometimes our listeners, especially when I got grief for that attacker spotted gum kit, people thought I got that for free, and that's why I said it. So I think it's worth mentioning that you actually bought the kit.
So yeah, that's a good call. They didn't send it to me. I paid for it because I just really liked how it looked. I really like the brand, and I'm trying to focus more on supporting up and coming cycling kit makers rather than the established ones that don't really need the support, and to just try something new and kind of have some new looks. So yeah, super impressed. The highlight for me is unsuspectingly got to be the socks. I don't know what they're made of, but I think it's like a merino blend or some sort of like, I don't even know, maybe it's like a cashmere, but it's like so soft. They're like too comfortable. I almost don't want to wear them on the bike because they're too gentle. They feel really good on my feet. And so if you're looking for something smaller, maybe to start off with from the company, start with the socks because they're insanely comfortable.
He let me touch them. They do feel really nice. Yeah, I have to agree. One last thing I wanted to address. Some of our more vigilant listeners who follow us on Instagram noticed we teased a little something that we made, some T-shirts with the Cycling Fashion Week name on them recently. And I want to apologize for posting that to Instagram because I want to make it clear, those T-shirts are not for sale. We are not creating merch. We've had more than a few questions about where you can buy them. You cannot buy them. We just made them for ourselves. And as we've said, this isn't a money-making enterprise for us. So yeah, those T-shirts are not for sale. We just made them for ourselves. We hate money.
The great market value of the T-shirts just skyrocketed as Warren said that.
People seem to think there's going to be like some big drop. There's not. They're gone already. Sorry, it's not happening. We hate drop shipping. We hate Patreon. We hate all that. So sorry.
Okay, for our next segment, we're doing a review of news, releases, things that have come out in the wonderful world of cycling fashion. And there's quite a few things since I think we haven't done our news roundup in a little bit of time. So there's quite a bit of stuff that's come out in the meantime. So we will cover some of the announcements and releases that are recent in the world of cycling fashion. We will start this week with a brand that we've never talked about on the podcast. They are called Rubber and Road. That is a brand out of New York City, and New York City seems quite central to their identity. Every piece of kit, maybe not every piece of kit, but a significant number of designs that they have are a sort of homage to NYC. And what we are going to talk about this week is a new jersey release that they've just released on Rubber and Road, and it's the Central Park Cycling Club trademark jersey. Let me describe that. So it pays homage to what they call as their daily cycling training ground. It's got luxe Italian fabric paired with Central Park Cycling Club trademark gold lettering on the back, which offers a unique, refined piece. Essentially, the way they describe it, it's designed for all-day comfort. It's cut in a super premium, seamless sleeves construction using kind of luxury technical fabrics, which is, I believe, made by their technical partners in Germany. Ergonomic design, offering easy access to the rear pockets, gripper-free elongated sleeves. So the sleeves go up to the elbows, as tends to be the fashion at the moment. And so the jersey itself, it's in a sort of beautiful dark green. I'm going to almost call it British racing green. Tony would probably disagree with me, say that that's not quite the Pantone of British racing green. But anyway, dark green, forest green, and it's got Central Park Cycling Club in a serif capitalized italics font on the front and the back. It's got Rubber and Road and small on the front as well. And there's only one seam throughout the jersey. It seems to be kind of a more continuous seam, and that seam is yellow. So you've got dark green, yellow, and gold. Pretty nice looking jersey, I would say. Here's the kicker. The price of the jersey is 450 Canadian dollars. 330 USD, 450 Canadian. What did we think of that?
I'm going to say independent of price. I loved the gold lettering on the back of the jersey, and it actually reminds me of the jerseys Legion of Los Angeles just wore for the Tulsa Tough. They were royal blue with gold lettering, and I've never seen it done before, so it's kind of wild that I'm seeing it now twice in the same week. But I love the gold lettering, and I love the color of green. I also feel like Tony would love the color of green if he was here. I really like the jersey. If I had $448 Canadian to spend on a jersey, maybe I'd buy it.
My biggest critique is actually that they didn't make matching bibs, because
Yeah,
Yes.
paired
Yeah.
with the black bibs they have, the Rubber and Road bibs, I don't think it looks that great. But I think if you made bibs in that color green and maybe like some gold accents, I actually think that would look really great. I can't not talk about the price. That's absurd. I'm sorry. Like, I need to know, is that real gold on that jersey? And I read the description like several times and be like, am I missing something? Looks aside, we on our heavy pedal interview, we joked about like the $400 bibs, and now we're in the $450 jerseys. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to get the brand on and kind of find out what went behind it, because like I'm not that familiar with the brand, but I was like looking through some of their other jerseys, and they have some stuff that I actually like. It's just a bit, maybe we just need to have them on figured out, because I gotta know why that jersey costs so much. And one last thing I'll say is I find it funny when not just this brand, like all cycling brands do, and they're like the ergonomic design, blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, it's a cycling kit. It's all ergonomic design. That's not a selling feature.
I actually went to the shop Rubber and Road in, I think it was September 2021. But it was before they were making their own kit. They used to just be like a distributor of MAAP, and they were also like a coffee shop. So I went, got a coffee. It was, I think the first time I actually bought MAAP kit was at Rubber and Road. But maybe they've switched to making their own kit because it seems to probably be more profitable if you can charge $448 a jersey. Because I don't really see on their site anymore that they carry other kit. It seems like they only do their own stuff. So they've gone from being like, uh, I guess like a brick and mortar store to kind of like their own brand.
I'm going to agree with Skyler. I love the gold lettering. I think it's beautiful. And I want more gold in cycling in general. I want solid gold bikes, shoes. Just bring it. I love gold, like bling cycling. I'm in favor of that. And I like the way they've done it. I'm a huge forest green fan as well. Love that color. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to say anything about the price because you already covered this. But for me, I guess, and that's more a matter, I think, of personal connection to a product or to a narrative. But what I find about Rubber and Road is they're very, very strongly identified to New York City.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at their overall catalog, a lot of their kits refer in one way or another to New York City. They have, you know, kind of their signature logo. It says R&R NYC. It's kind of like the New York City logo. You know, when you get to, I don't know, Penn Station or Grand Central, you see that logo, and it's very, very strongly affiliated to New York City, which is nice. I mean, New York's a nice city. I just personally don't feel such a strong connection to New York City, not being myself a New Yorker. So I don't know if the target market for Rubber and Road is really the New York City cycling crowd, in which case I think they're doing a very good job of it because they're very strongly identified with the New York community. But for me anyway, as a non-New Yorker, it doesn't really appeal to me quite as much.
It's interesting you say that, Alex, because the brand I actually really associate with New York is God and Famous, because a lot of their, like, pretty much all their marketing is really rooted in New York, but it's more, I would say they seem a bit more like the authentic New York. And when I don't know Rubber and Road very well, so this is kind of a half-ass take.
Which this podcast would be nothing if not for a half-ass take.
Yeah, exactly. But because, like you said, it reminds me of the I Heart NYC logo, so it feels more like the touristy New York. And actually, I'm going to mention God and Famous again later. So I see what you're saying, and for that reason, maybe I don't connect with as much. And I feel I also need to mention one of the people who sent us this link and to like, oh, you guys got to talk about this, was from New York and was like, they said what's said in the jersey, Central Park Cycling Club isn't a real thing. And maybe that's why they've trademarked it here, is trying to make it their own thing. But apparently, I don't know if that's true. So maybe if some of our other New York listeners can enlighten us. Apparently, that's not a real thing. But
New York City brands: Rubber and Road, God and Famous, Search and State, Ostroy. Am I missing someone? I think Ostroy is probably my favorite of the bunch. They're very unique. Shout out Alex Ostroy.
I used to like Search and State, but it actually, for a while, they like didn't post to Instagram for like a year, and I thought they'd gone out of business, but then they came back. I don't know. I haven't bought anything from them in a long time, so I'm not sure how I feel about them now.
Anyway, intriguing stuff from Rubber and Road. Love the color. It's a great design. I mean, I'm going to take their word for it. It looks like a very high-end cycling jersey. I agree with Warren, too. I think the full green kit with the green bibs as well would look incredible. Pretty interesting stuff. If New York kind of speaks to you, or if you're, strongly identified with New York, that's probably one brand you want to take a look at. Okay, the next one that we are going to cover, the next release, is the Solitude collection from our good friends at Panorama Studios. I say our good friends. We don't know them that much. We just happen to talk about them a lot on the podcast, since they are the talk of the town and they release a lot of stuff. So they give us good content to cover. So in that sense, yes, they are our friends. Essentially, Panorama redesigned the Solitude collection. And I'm going to say we had a little bit of fun with it on Instagram. Warren did. Why don't you talk about that, Warren? What was your initial impression of the Solitude collection?
For the listeners who didn't see what we posted on Instagram, because it was just a story, because I didn't want to have a meme on our feed that stays there. It was basically just a meme comparing one of the promo shots of the Solitude with a really old MAAP jersey that it looked very similar to, at least on the front design. It was this old MAAP jersey where it was styled like a pro team kit and had all these different variations of the MAAP logo. It was in like a light blue aqua color. And it was like, I don't know, is that office meme of the what is the difference between these two pictures? It's the same picture or something. Anyway, that was sort of the joke, because and then I think I said something to the effect of like, oh, a bold choice of Panormal to get MAAP to design their next collection. But I also need to point out that not only in the design, but the photography, you could also argue owes a lot to some gotten famous marketing shots from over the years with the like bright flash. That's a very New York style of a formerly famous photographer who I will not mention by name. You could argue that it's influenced by a lot of different brands, and I think there's a few people who replied to it naming several. Yeah, so that's why I made the meme. Tony's not here to give his take, so I'll save it from the listeners, but I think we should let Italian Alex talk, because I know what he thinks about it.
I gotta tell you guys, this is my favorite collection from Panache ever released. I loved this when I saw it, which is funny because I feel like I have many friends who are heavily invested in Panache kit, and they just have a lot of it and they're big fans of it. The people that I know that have the most Panache liked this the least. I feel like their conventional customers really hated this collection. And it's funny because I have very little kit from Pa leading up to this, but I might just have to stock up on some now that this has been released because I really like it. That being said, to Warren's aforementioned point, I do have a lot of MAAP kit.
Yeah.
So obviously
That's what I was going to say.
Tracks for my previous purchase history in cycling kit. And you can even tell, like, in how kind of what Warren alluded to and how they marketed this collection, it's different than their previous releases. There's no pictures of the cyclists in Girona or in Europe in the countryside. It's like a close-up photo shoot in a studio somewhere. The model's wearing the textbook Italian Alex Oakley eye jackets, which I love, and I have a pair of myself. And they're not wearing helmets or anything. They got their baseball caps on. I'm always in a baseball cap. Bucket hat. They got their Salomon XT6s on. They knew exactly what they were doing when they photographed this collection, and it's obviously for me specifically. So I cannot wait to get it.
For the collection itself, I have to give them respect for doing something different, because I'm constantly talking about we want to see different things from brands. I personally find it a little too close to some MAAP and gotten famous jersey designs. So I don't know. I feel like my Twitter post said enough, and I don't want to drag them. I'll commend them for trying something different. I would be curious to find out how it's sold, though.
I think I'm with Alex. I like it. I don't own very much Panorama. I think I have one jersey, and I don't know if I would purchase this. But again, if I had just however much money I need, I'd probably get this. But I do like I have a lot of MAAP stuff, and I really like MAAP, and I've always loved how MAAP's kind of out of the box from other cycling brands, especially like a few years ago. And this kind of reminded me of some OG MAAP when it came out. But I do really like it, and yeah, I like the way it's photographed and the way they've styled it. It definitely screams Alex Baird. So
To Warren, to your point earlier, I just did some quick research.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really selling. The white jersey seems to have sold out, but all the other colored ones are still in stock. And we're recording weeks after this was released, which is very unusual for a Panorama release. Usually that stuff sells pretty fast.
Okay, so I have a take. I think it'll be the definitive take here today on Cycling Fashion Week. I am deeply confused by the design language of this collection. And like Warren, I commend them for trying something new. We've been screaming for something new for Panorama for a long time on the podcast. And look, they're trying something. Are they going in the direction of MAAP? Sure, but everybody's influencing everybody. And at the end of the day, everybody's really copying Brand Sorensen. So it doesn't really matter if they're copying MAAP. At the source of it is two people in LA, and that's it. But where I'm confused with the design language here is in what solitude means, right? Solitude is, as the name suggests, loneliness, introspection, self-reflection, long solo rides, calm, thinking a lot about things. And if you look at how this collection is designed, it's extremely loud designs with big lettering, aggressive logos. It almost makes me think, the first thing I think about when I see it, and it could be because of the way they write PNS on the front of the jersey, but it's the NASCAR logo that I see there, and I see a NASCAR race with extremely loud cars, and I just don't associate that with Solitude so much. And actually, interestingly enough, if you ask me what PNS collections would best represent the idea of solitude, of long rides in the country and introspection, it would be your regular block color PNS stuff in earth tones. That's kind of how I would associate it with Solitude. So I find it interesting that this is what they've chosen to go with Solitude. I think this would have been cool as an other release from PNS, like as a, I don't know, call it something else, like something more kind of upbeat or, louder. But I just don't really see it as Solitude. And the other thing I'm going to finish with in terms of PNS and Solitude is that, does the average PNS rider ride solo at all? I mean, the only time I see people decked out in PNS is like a horde of 20 riders. Most of them are hidden in the middle of the bunch, going 34 kilometers an hour, pushing 140 watts. I just associate PNS so much with group riding that I don't see Solitude as associated at all with the PNS brand. So this is where I'm a little confused with the design language of this, even though I like the release itself. I'm like Italian Alex. I like it, but would I get it? No. But I just don't understand the design behind it.
I just want to say quickly, that's an unfair criticism, Panorama. Like, I've seen multiple people in Panorama kit riding solo, so I don't know. I've seen, I think you could say that about a lot of different brands personally, but I also think maybe you're overthinking the name of the collection a little bit.
I mean, it says Solitude in character size 128. Like, I can't escape it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, next up, we have a release. This is actually from last month, but we missed it when it originally came out, and we came back to it later and felt that we had to comment on this because I actually think this is pretty cool. So this is from a brand that is actually a reasonably big brand. I think you hear about them a lot. We just haven't covered them all that much on the podcast here, but I do own some stuff by them that I enjoy. Café du Cycliste, the French brand from the Côte d'Azur, trying to kind of represent the Côte d'Azur lifestyle, Nice, Cannes, this whole beautiful region of France. And they did a collaboration recently with French fashion brand Agnès B, which I think they're available in the United States. Anyway, pretty popular French fashion, or I guess lifestyle brand, you could say, called Agnès B. And they came up with a new collaboration. And there's kind of two sides to the collaboration. One side is just regular outdoor kind of daily wear, which they say is inspired by the world of cycling and the world of Agnès B. So very French. They say two types of zipped cardigan, a unisex tank top, and t-shirt. So very simple stuff. And the other side is more technical clothing, so cycling bibs and jerseys for cyclists. But they say it's based on Agnès B's photographs, and the photos are taken with a Warren. Warren, you're a photo guy. You would know this more than I do. Harine Zumi camera from a high-speed train. Does that tell you anything, Warren, as a photo aficionado?
I'm not familiar with that camera, but I'm sure it's expensive in film, probably.
Like, it sounds niche. It sounds expensive. I like it. Anyway, so taken from that kind of high-end camera depicting the speed that's synonymous with cycling. So very French. And I thought that so there's a lot of obviously everyday outdoor wear kind of, lifestyle stuff. But the cycling kit, I like the design. It's interesting. It's very colorful. It's a black jersey, but it's got different bands of different colors, almost looking like a rainbow, but not quite the rainbow of the World Championship, but in a kind of diagonal shape. So there's a lot of movement in the kit. The shape of the colors is interesting. Now, the fit doesn't look super pro or super high performance, but I don't think that that's what they're going for here. I think they're going more for a more fashion, a more kind of laid back look. But anyhow, in the spirit of brands trying something new and doing cool collaborations with other brands. I'm going to give Café du Cycliste some points here. I've always been a big fan of their striped jerseys, which I think they've been having for many years, the sort of French marinière, white and navy stripes on a jersey. They've had that for a number of years, and that's initially how I knew them. Always loved that. I have a polka dot jersey from them as well that I like, but I thought that this collaboration was pretty cool. What did you all think about it?
Yeah, I like it. I can't really add a whole lot to what you said. I like the kit. It reminds me a little bit of some of the older Canyon SRAM kits done by Rafa a few years ago, but not in the sense that it looks like it's like a ripoff, but I think there may be some inspiration there. Anyway, yeah, it's nice and colorful. It's different. I'm into it.
And actually, a lot of the new releases from Café du Cycliste, I think, have been some of the more innovative ones out there recently. Like they have, so they have a jersey that looks like a handkerchief that's like red with some white pattern on it that I think is really, really cool. And I actually think they've been among some of the more interesting, innovative designs recently. And again, I'd owned some of their stuff from many years ago, the striped jersey, the polka dot jersey, like very simple stuff that I always loved, kind of staples. But more recently, I find that they've been a little bit ahead of the game in designing innovative and cool stuff. So I'm going to give them points to Café du Cycliste.
My only critique I'll give this is like I love the colors on the jersey and the bib shorts, but I don't think the colors exactly match the same like saturation level like between the jersey and the bibs. Like the bibs kind of look like the colors are stretched out a little bit in the photos. And I don't know if that's on purpose or if that's just like the way the kit is once it's worn, but that's something that would drive me a little bit nuts if I owned the kit. So that's the only thing. That's the only little gripe I'll have about it. But otherwise, I love the colors and I love the comparison to the past like Canyon SRAM kit because I loved that as soon as I got into cycling.
Okay, next segment. It is the return of the Panache police. You have 4 Panache police officers here tonight on Cycling Fashion Week in the person of Warren, Skyler, Italian Alex, and Universal Alex. And we are going to tackle a very important topic in cycling fashion that I don't think we've ever done a deep dive on this in the podcast. And we keep getting DMs of people asking us to do a deep dive on this. And by the way, continue to send us DMs on Instagram at Cycling Fashion Week. If you want to throw something in the canal, you have a take, you want to send us voice notes, go ahead. Our DMs are open at Cycling Fashion Week. So a number of people have asked us for some time to talk about sunglasses in cycling. What are our favorite brands? What do we like about sunglasses? And we haven't really done it. So we are going to take advantage of today's podcast to cover the broad topic of sunglasses. Who wants to start?
I'll go first. It's also unfortunate Tony's not here because Tony and I for years dabbled in the world of Oakleys or whatever you want to call it, which is just buying like cheap knockoff replicas off of like AliExpress or wherever of just like the exact Oakley sunglasses or whatever brand you want. You can basically find any brand you want on AliExpress, just poorly made for $30. You know, I had some POC-offs, whatever you want to call it. That's one question we've gotten a few times actually is like, you know, is it worth spending the money on these insanely expensive glasses or should I just get the knockoffs for $30? I personally would say don't buy the knockoffs. And I say that because I've done it. And, you know, what you save initially, you end up spending because they're so crappy. And it's so hit and miss. Occasionally you get a pair that's actually good and would last for a season or two. But then you get a pair where the lenses don't fit properly into the frames. Because, you know, most of the time they come with like 4 different lens colors, you know, like clear.
Which is incredible for $30.
It's great value, yeah. But half the time they don't fit in the frame. I do think when you're first getting into cycling, it's not the worst thing to do it and order them. They'll take like 3 months to arrive, but like do it and maybe they work for you because Tony has a few pairs that I think he has like 100% knockoffs that I think he still wears to this day. Whereas I had to basically, mine either got ruined or I gave them to like a new cyclist. So if you're a new cyclist, maybe it's worth doing. And then otherwise, I would probably just encourage you to get a good brand on sale.
These days, we're kind of in a golden age of sunglasses. There's so many different pairs that are available at so many different price points. So even if you don't have the scratch to, go out and buy the golden edition of the Oakley Katos, there's still more affordable options out there for you at all different price points and very stylish too. So many options. And we're going to go through some of the different brands in this episode now.
My favorite thing about sunglasses is when Warren gets a new pair in the mail and he sends us a selfie in the Cycling Fashion Week WhatsApp. And for some reason, like Warren has a huge head, but the sunglasses are always massive. Like anytime he gets a pair of sunglasses, they're just huge. And I love getting the Warren huge sunglasses selfie.
That is not true entirely. So I do have a large head. You should have seen me when I still had hair. Alex is specifically referring to my team, as until this year, we were sponsored by Bollé for helmets and sunglasses. And Bollé sunglasses, for whatever reason, are gigantic. They might as well be ski goggles. And the fact that they, especially the pair I got last year, like barely fit on my face. They're so large. And one time I wore them on a winter ride and rode by a friend of ours in our chat group. She was like, "Oh, Warren, I saw you ride by and thought you were wearing goggles because they were that big." That said, I actually did want to briefly talk about Bollé because no one thinks about Bollé. And I have a pair of photochromatic that, one, aren't that big, and two, are actually really good photochromatically. But otherwise, Bollé is huge. Those big ones on like anyone with a smaller head, they look ridiculous. And the other one he's talking about is I used to have a pair of 100%, and this is why I'm not a fan of 100% glasses, that were gigantic. They were like as big as the Bollés. I couldn't wear them with all but one of my helmet.
I do like big glasses though. I like big lenses. I just find the overall vision, everything looks the same. It's just, I find it better personally. The one thing that annoys me supremely in the world of cycling sunglasses is the apparent lack of connection between helmets and sunglasses, where you'll get certain sunglasses and then you try to fit them with your helmet and then they just bump up against the helmet, or you can never get the how do you call this, the arm of the sunglasses to fit properly behind your ears. They get caught up in the helmet, or worse, you get to the cafe, you try to put them on top of your helmet and then they just keep falling because you can't find the right holes in your helmet to do it. So my wife bought me a pair of Oakley Sutros, which is still my go-to sunglasses, which I like them. I don't know if they're still considered cool, but I like them personally. She bought me a pair of Oakley Sutros maybe 2 seasons ago for my birthday, and I was ecstatic when she gave them to me. It was a great Christmas present. Birthday present. But I've dropped them so much on the pavement just from having them on my helmet and not fitting so much that they're all kind of scratched up. When I wear them, it doesn't really show anything. The scratches don't do much, but I find that extremely annoying, the lack of connection between helmet and sunglasses. And I think it's because some manufacturers want you to buy the helmet that goes with the sunglasses. So Oakley makes helmets too. I get that, but I just find that extremely annoying.
That's always a gamble when you order a new pair of sunglasses. Will it fit in my helmet? For the most part, I've had good luck with that, but I used to have a POC helmet many years ago that nothing would stick in there. They fill out all the time. Like I lost a pair during a Fast Friday ride. They just fell out in the middle of like a sprint section. It was luckily one, they were knockoff Oakleys, and two, they somehow didn't get ruined, which maybe is an endorsement for knockoff Oakleys.
So I had a mushroomy POC helmet from like 7 years ago, and I had a pair of fake POCs, so Fox or whatever you call them. And I agree, nothing fits in those mushroomy POC helmets because the holes are so massive in the helmet. Very difficult to fit anything in there.
They call it an eye garage. That's what it says in the helmet. It says like eye garage. The helmets for
That's creepy.
Yeah, I know.
Why don't we talk about some of the brands we like or recommend? Like for me, Oakley is kind of the gold standard. They're also most expensive, but they've got so many different options. They've got like the Sutro, which are a little more like casual. They've got the like super aero Katos. I just bought a pair recently that I think are actually marketed towards surfers, but they sort of have like an 80s look to them. They actually almost kind of look like Albas.
Italian Alex, which one are the Oakley Michael Jordan ones that you lent me a couple weeks ago when we went out riding? These ones are incredible.
Yeah, I just talked about them. They're the eye jackets. So they were originally released in the mid 90s or early 90s, and they were popularized by Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and the Chicago Bulls, and most notably, of course, Dennis Rodman was like the most iconic wearer of the eye jackets. It's kind of associated with him specifically. Then, of course, they went out of style, but they just re-retroed them out like 2 years ago or a year ago. And I actually lent them to Universal Alex when we rode together a couple weeks ago, and he was pleasantly surprised by the aesthetic of them on his face.
I mean, I'm kind of the Dennis Rodman of the podcast, right? Yeah. Tony would be the Michael Jordan. Warren's the Pippen. Maybe I'm the Dennis Rodman. I'm kind of the bad boy of the podcast. So yeah, I think they fit my style well.
Oakley is a good bet. Alba, I got a pair through our friends Le Club last year that I actually probably wear the most. I like them a fair bit. They are seen a lot on Instagram for sure, but they're pretty functional. I mean, we're talking about sunglasses. They're all, let's just put that aside. They're all outrageously expensive for what you're getting. Like, they're plastic, and like that's just the reality. As somebody who has to wear glasses, like prescription glasses, that's, if you want decent looking glasses, you have to pay for them, unfortunately.
One brand that doesn't get talked about enough because it sort of went away. It was very popular in the early 1990s, late 1990s, early 2000s, with one particular Italian sprinter who shall remain unnamed, Briko. And Italian Alex brought them back into the cycling scene this year, the Brikos. I used to have Briko ski goggle when I was a teenager, and I had completely forgotten that brand existed until Italian Alex went online this year and bought himself some Briko cycling glasses. Do you want to review them, Alex? Because I think they look incredible.
Yeah, for sure. Brikos were kind of a collector's item for like the last 10, 15 years or so because they discontinued their two most popular pairs. The first really popular pair that I have were the Detectors, which are their kind of single lens, very big on the face sunglasses that kind of look like a Sutro of sorts. It's like a very throwback look. It's really distinguished because it really hugs your face super tight to the eyes and wraps around your face. So it has a very distinct aero look, and they're really notable too for having like a multicolored gradient that went across the actual frame of the lens. So mine starts with like a celeste color on one side, then it turns tan, and then gray on the other. It's like a very 90s 2000s look. The lens on them is really nice too. Like, the reason that they've become retroed out is that they collaborated with an Italian fashion brand called Retro Superfuture, who re-released them. And so the lens that's on them is an actual high quality, performance based, polarized anti-fog lens, and it's a nice color that's not too bright and not too contrast. So I've worn it on trails, in gravel rides and gravel races, and it's still good too. But it looks great on the road. And the material is really good. It, again, works really well when cycling, and the fog when you're stationary goes away once you start moving, like an Oakley lens or anything like that. So performance-wise, they're really good. Aesthetics-wise, it's got that 90s, 2000s throwback look that I love, and so I think that they're unmatched in aesthetics. The only two downsides that I would attribute to these sunglasses is that because they're so tight to the face, your eyelashes will actually touch the lens when you're blinking or just looking around. And it's a little jarring at first. I got used to it like after a day, but it will leave residue on the inside of the lens every time you ride. So I just have to wipe them quite a bit just because every time I take them off, there's like a little bit of schmutz on the lens every time. And secondly, because it wraps so tight to your face, it's actually impossible to put in the eyeglass garage of your sunglasses. It just will not fit because it's shaped so tight that it can't squeeze into any helmet.
I thought you were going to say one of the negatives was the sunglasses tan you get wearing them because of that.
That's actually another thing is that
it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, because they're so big and pronounced, when I wear them on long rides and I forget to wear facial sunscreen, I get a tan line in the shape of the sunglasses. And if you look up the Briko Detector 2, you'll see how crazy it looks. I actually have one right now that's going away, and it will leave a crazy tan line. So make sure you wear sunscreen when you put them on. The other Briko sunglass, this is a call out to Briko and Retro Super Future. If we have anyone from those companies listening, which we definitely do. The other sunglass, which they have to retro out, which they haven't yet, and this is the Panache Briko iconic sunglass. It is the Raider 2. Those are the Brikos where it's actually two lenses, and it's is separated by a single piece of plastic that's detached from the lenses that sits in the bridge of the nose area. And gives you that classic bug eye look that was iconic with 90s cycling sunglasses. I am
Is that
begging
the alien ones, Alex?
Alien ones, yeah. Please retro those out. I am dying for a pair.
No. Horrible. Those are awful, Alex. I had to Google it to remember. No, that's not for me.
Skyler, what's your go-to sunglasses?
So right now they're the Smith Bobcats. That's what our team wears. But they're really nice. They're small, like they're a big lens, but they're a small frame. So they're really good for women's faces or if you just have like a smaller face. But if I wasn't wearing my team sponsored glasses, I think my favorite ones are actually the MAAP collab with 100% the Hypercrafts. I don't know. I know the 100% can like you can get them on AliExpress. Like maybe they can feel cheaper. I don't know. But I love these glasses and like I've tried them on at the bike shop with the helmet. They fit and I'm like they look so good. They also come in like a bunch of different colors and I really like how the lens is like mirrored. And then I'd say my other two go-tos. Last year I always wore Koos. I think they're called the demos. And they were like a black frame with a really pretty blue lens. And those are probably my favorite glasses I've owned. I have a pair of Oakley Sutros. I kind of think Universal Alex might be onto something that they're a little bit dated right now. But
Probably.
they came out with Sutro Light Sweeps, which have just a bit of a different frame. And I think those are really cool and they're a very nice sunglass that is not like a dated Sutro. And then the only the last one I'll say is just I have a love-hate relationship with the Oakley Katos, like the ones that go across your whole face. I think I hate them. I hate them when I see most people wearing them. But then this past weekend, one of the teams from Montreal, iBike, they were wearing them and they had the gold Katos on, so the full face glasses, and then the girls had like the gold chains and gold jewelry to match, rings and earrings, and it looked so clean. It looked so good. It looked good with their kit, and I was like, I think my opinion on these glasses has been changed.
You got to earn those sunglasses then. You have
Yeah.
to be sunglass, you have to unlock by being
The
fat.
Katos are the ones that I'm going to say they dropped like 1 or 2 years ago, and Cavendish was wearing them, right?
And they go over your like nose bridge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
they're like a
mean,
full
no,
thing.
that's a no for me.
I will say though, when somebody wins like a sprint stage in a you know in the tour or some other world tour race, it's like okay, that's fine. But like I actually don't think I've yet to see them on anyone just like locally, and I'm glad because I think they look ridiculous personally. I don't care what the functional benefits are. They look ridiculous. The functional benefits of sunglasses are they're dark and they keep the sun out of your eyes. One thing I did also quickly want to touch on, because as I said, I wear glasses and normally when I'm riding, I just wear contacts and then so I can wear whatever sunglasses I want. And it's just, I find it just better riding in general because, you know, you're taking sunglasses off, you're putting them back on depending on light conditions, how long you're riding. But I do want to briefly talk about prescription cycling sunglasses because it's like a bit of it's a huge struggle actually because there's not a lot of options out there. There are like a few Oakley, there's like 1 or 2 Oakley ones you can get because the way that sunglasses are designed for cycling, especially the way they wrap around, you can't generally get lenses made prescription wise. So they have to be like It's only on the flatter ones, and they're like built in, and it looks really weird. But Oakley's got an option. There's the company Roka makes it that I'm tempted to try, but they're US based, and it just adds
one that Lance is shilling for, right?
Yes, Lance shills for them. But I've been tempted to order a pair from them because I've read some good things about them online. I think they have some okay looking models. Like if I live in the US, I probably would have tried them by now, to be honest. But just you throw in the exchange rate, it gets quite expensive. And then I also wanted to call out Alba has this little nose piece that you can get prescription lenses put in and then put behind your sunglasses to like wear with your normal sunglasses. You basically put in your prescription lenses behind them and you can take it in and out, which I think is a neat idea. I think you'd probably run into that Briko problem where your eyelashes would touch. I haven't tried it. I want to sympathize with all the glasses wearers out there that if you need to, because some people can't wear contacts, but if you need to wear like prescription sunglasses while riding, you're kind of screwed. You don't really have a lot of options. But if you are out there looking, try Roka, and Oakley has a few options that aren't the worst. If you know of any that I haven't mentioned, because I've only mentioned two, please let me know, because I'd be into trying some.
Just to add on to Warren's point, knowing a few cyclists that wear prescription glasses and don't do well with contact lenses, it really has been a tough time for prescription glasses wearers to get stylish cycling glasses. I know the struggle, and I've seen it firsthand amongst them, and it's tough when you can't actually choose the sunglasses you want because you have that limitation. Fortunately, I can say with optimism and enthusiasm that the Oakley Plasma, which is a 2-lens Oakley sunglass that you can get prescription lenses for, is coming back into style. So if you're looking for a pair of Oakleys to go with prescription, you have that option. Likewise, Oakley just retroed out the racing jacket, which was a 2-lens sunglass similar to the Plasma, but a bit more retro in the aesthetic, a couple weeks ago. And that was a sunglass that was really big in the 2000s. I remember a lot of cyclists, but also non-cyclist celebrities and athletes wore them just as like a casual sunglass as well. Those are back in, so if you can get your hands on those, they're a bit more exclusive and limited. There's that option as well.
Alex, the Plasma is the Geraint Thomas ones, is that it?
That's right, yeah.
So, yeah, very interesting stuff about prescription, people wearing prescription glasses, not being able to find proper sunglasses or getting stuck with contacts, which doesn't really work that well. I'm in that situation. Like very often in the summer, I'll start sweating and then I get a drop of sweat in my eyes and I'm wearing contacts and it's just a disaster. So I found a solution to it. I just don't wear contacts. I wear no prescription glasses. I just wear my cycling sunglasses, no contacts, hope for the best. Gosh. That's what I do.
You have way too much faith in the wheel in front of you to be doing that.
I have almost no myopia. I'm literally only astigmatism. So it's not like I'm looking at a screen or whatever. So I'm just hoping for the best.
Speaking of Geraint Thomas, Ineos is now sponsored by Sungods, which is a brand we haven't talked about. And they look like, I don't know their stuff very well, but very quick Google and look. They actually, some of their models look a lot like a couple of the Bollés I have. So I feel like they'd be way too big on me, but they look okay. And then actually that reminds me of one thing I wanted to bring up. And because Tony's not here, is Tony likes to say that he thinks sunglasses are like the biggest scam, and it's all just like, he doesn't believe there's a difference in the lens quality. I do personally, because I have varying different qualities of lenses in my sunglasses. But I did want to bring it up is we've talked about Decathlon a bit before on the podcast and how they have that in-house brand Van Rysel. They have some sunglasses on there that look pretty good and are only, I think they're $80. So I'm actually tempted to just grab a pair of those and try them out because they look fine. You know, they got like black arms and a full lens, and they're only $80. So that's where I'd be interested to see how they compare against like my Oakleys that cost like $200.
However, is that a $30 AliExpress one that they're selling for $80, right? Because if that's
why I want to find out. Because I don't know, because that might maybe add more fuel to Tony's theory. Because I will say unequivocally that the sunglasses I have bought from AliExpress are of a way poorer quality than like the real any sunglass brand I bought. They're they're much better constructed. The lenses are better. There's like other budget brands out there like Gooder, Pit Viper, which are pretty polarizing style, but I had a pair of Pit Vipers many years ago before I knew better. And the lenses actually were quite good, and they were like $80.
They're too douchey for me.
They're very douchey.
They're
They're
douchey.
very douchey. Yeah.
They've been co-opted because I think it started out like with the good intentions. Like I remember like in 2018, we had a good friend of ours buy a pair, and I was like, oh, these are pretty cool. They kind of look like the vintage Oakleys, like the 80s Oakleys that were worn by, who's the American pre-Lance?
Greg LeMond.
Yeah, they're like the Le Monde era Oakleys, but they've been kind of co-opted by like a non-athletic frat boy crowd.
Oh no, I agree. I got rid of mine.
Hey, what are you doing? I don't know, I'm just fucking tossing bikes in the river, bro.
Okay, next segment, Into the Canal, where we throw something we don't like from the world of cycling or cycling fashion into Montreal's La Chine Canal. Alternatively, we could also have a Camélien, which is the greatest, most difficult, most grueling climb in the world, Camélien Oud, where we want to commend something from the world of cycling. I will open it up to the crew who wants to start today.
I'll go first, mainly because I don't think I've done a Camélien in quite some... Or actually, no, that's not true. I gave a Camélien to Purple Bibs on the last episode. But before that, I'd been very negative for quite a while. So I'm going to do another Camélien. And this is for actually a different podcast, not our podcast. It is one I stumbled upon. I don't know. It was served to me through some various algorithm. Actually, on YouTube, I think, is how because they also film their shows. But I want to give a Camélien to the Nero Cycling Show. So it's a podcast that talks a lot about amateur racing. These guys, the hosts, who are, I believe they're Chris Miller and Jesse Coyle, are the regular hosts. And they talk about amateur cycling, racing. They're both racers. At least one of them's a coach. And they talk about it. But what I want to Camélien them for is they're funny and they try to be entertaining. Because personally, I've tried listening to some other cycling podcasts out there that focus on like amateur racing in the US and Europe. And the hosts are always really knowledgeable, but it's often just like kind of boring. Like they just take it a little too seriously. And the Nero Cycling Show, maybe it's because they're Australian and they just, they love having a laugh and all that, but like it's actually quite funny, and they've got lots of hot takes, which we obviously appreciate. And I would recommend our listeners, if you have any interest in racing or even just general like tech talk, I would strongly suggest you check them out and take a listen. I really enjoyed the episodes I've been listening to. It's definitely made it onto my list of podcasts. And to be honest, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. So yeah, the Nero Cycling Show, I'd recommend checking it out.
I mean, it can't be as good as ours, but it's probably pretty good.
Okay, I'm going to go next. I'm going to give a Camélien to Lance Armstrong this week for absolutely lighting up cycling Twitter during the Giro. So I'm not sure how many people are on Twitter that are listening to Cycling Fashion Week, but this was some incredible Twitter content. So if you recall the Giro d'Italia this year, there was a stage, I think it was stage 13 of the Giro, where Thibaut Pinot was in a breakaway with an EF Easy Post rider, an EF Education Easy Post rider, and also a Movistar guy called Einar Rubio. And it was your classic Thibaut Pinot breakaway where he was just not working intelligently at all, just being the romantic rider that he is, was pushing through, was constantly attacking, and then complaining that the EF Education Easy Post rider wasn't working hard enough. And then they got to the finish line. Thibaut was unhappy. He had done all the pulling. He had tried to attack a gazillion times. And the basically the Movistar guy, who had just been laying low the whole time and saving his energy, just sprinted past them and went and won the stage. And after the stage, Thibaut Pinot was very unhappy. He was very sad. He was like crying, which he tends to do a lot. And then he said, I didn't want the EF Education guy to win, whatever. And then Jonathan Vaughters, Directeur Sportif of EF Education Easy Post, then said Other riders congratulated the winner. That's good kind of sportsmanship, blah, blah, blah. So he took the high road. And then Lance Armstrong saw this. Essentially, Lance Armstrong, what I love about him, you say the name Vaughters, and he smells blood in the water. And so Lance just went off on Twitter, and he said, is this the same Vaughters that did the exact same thing as his entire generation did, threw his own riders under the bus, and then got off scot-free? And then Jonathan Vaughters got back at Lance Armstrong, said, look, not every rider of our generation doped. I did. I didn't throw people under the bus, blah, blah. But then Lance just would have none of it, kept punching on Jonathan Vaughters on Twitter, and then said that this was revisionist history. Anyway, love it. I think this is all the big Netflix conspiracy to make cycling huge. Get these old kind of washed up riders to go at each other on Twitter. I love it. Just more of that, please. Kemier to Lance Armstrong and Jonathan Vaughters and Thibaut Pinot while we're at it too.
It shows how long it's been since we recorded an episode. I feel like this was news 3 weeks ago.
It was, but it's worth mentioning though, because cycling Twitter is kind of sad. Like there's not, it's not a huge topic on Twitter, I would say. But when I get Lance to start just insulting people on Twitter, this is good content. I love it.
I can go. I had a Canal, but I actually think that they have written there wrong, so it might be a chameleon now. So originally, I was going to Canal Panormal's Midsummer Ride, which is the 200 kilometer challenge, supposed to be from sunrise to sunset. And the Toronto edition of this ride was starting like 2.5 hours away from Toronto, which was just crazy because it's not Toronto. Like we're just in Ontario at that point. But now when I've gone back to check before I canaled that, they've actually switched it to starting from High Park in Toronto, which maybe they knew I was going to canal their ride. So they went and they switched it on me. So I guess I'll chameleon them for starting a Toronto ride from Toronto.
Well done.
I don't know.
No, I would agree with
They've
you.
surprised me here.
I would agree with you. Owen Sound is very much not Toronto. That is a 2.5 to 3 hour drive away. Beautiful country though, and probably would be a great ride. Way better than riding out of the city. But that's a you have to drive out the night before and stay the night after kind of thing. Like,
are you riding it, Skyler?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna canal the fact that summer solstice is on a Wednesday. So actually, I'm gonna canal summer solstice.
Hang on though. Is the midsummer right? Is it on the Wednesday or is it on?
Yeah, it is. It's the 21st. It's Wednesday at 6 a.m.
Don't people have jobs to afford all this kit?
That's what I thought. So the original one and the same day that I think Le Club is doing it in Montreal is on the Saturday, the 17th. But the one in Toronto is leaving 6 a.m. on Wednesday. So actually, I'm gonna canal anyone who can do a summer solstice ride because they don't have a job during the day on Wednesday.
You're canaling people who don't have a job.
Yeah, because I want to do that. So just out of
agree.
spite, I'm gonna canal them.
I mean, we've been in a labor shortage for 3 years. We can't afford to have people just riding on a Wednesday.
I would canal somebody for using one vacation day to ride on a Wednesday, especially in Toronto. Like, the traffic's probably worse than the weekend, actually.
Okay, all right, Midsummer Canal. I guess I didn't follow. Is it Canal or is it Camille? Because it's kind of both.
It's kind of both.
It turned into canaling people who ride on weekdays because they don't have a job.
Harsh.
Because I'm jealous. That's why.
Okay, all right. We'll leave it.
I'll canal unemployed people.
I simply can't do a long 200K ride on a Wednesday because I can't afford to take any time off. It would burn too much of a hole in my kit budget.
But you see, that's what we need. We need the economy. We need people to work so they can afford more kit, so that they can work more and afford the cycle of kit. Okay, Alex, what do you got?
I've been comedianning things for a long time. I've had a lot of good things to say. I think it's about time I brought us back down and went back into hater mode. So I'm going to canal something. A couple weeks ago, I went on a club ride, like a sanctioned club ride, which I haven't done in a long time, with a local club. And I haven't done a club ride in a while because I think it's a pretty common trajectory for cyclists in big cities, maybe not in small towns, but definitely big cities, to kind of outgrow clubs, not in a negative way. I just think that there's the common trajectory of being new to cycling, not knowing anyone that is a cyclist, joining a club and participating in club rides to meet people, kind of finding your like-minded group, and then committing to riding with that community and that cohort of people outside of the confines of the club on your own time. And many people in the space that have been riding for years kind of follow the same path. And so following that, I haven't done a club ride in a while, and I went back and did one. And it's been years since I've done one, but as I remember it, and it wasn't really that long ago, but typically the guiding principle is if you're riding with a sanctioned club, and that club has a history and kind of a culture, and most importantly, a club kit, typically in the club rides, like, you would wear that kit. It's just like a thing of respect. Even if the kit's ugly, it's just something you do for the culture, out of respect for the club and the kit. You just have to wear the club kit on the club ride. I went on a club ride, and on this one, and it's a club that's been around for a while, and I know the people have the kit, but no one on the club ride was wearing the club kit. And I'm going to canal that. I'm canaling not wearing the club kit on the club ride if you have it. If you don't have it, then you're off the hook. What are you going to do? You missed the order date for the kit, so just wait till next year, not the end of the world. If you're on a club ride, I think out of respect for the culture, you got to wear that kit. I don't care how ugly it is. If it's ugly, that's probably good. That's part of it, you know, it's part of the culture. It's just something you should do to maintain cohesion in the club, respect the club, wear the club kit.
I agree with wearing club kit if you have it on a club ride. That was always my favorite part when I got into cycling, and my mom and I were in like a women's group ride every Wednesday, and we'd all wear the fun, it was like pink and orange and purple and black kit, and I thought we looked so sick when we were just out there cycling. And I don't know, I really love it. If you've got the kit, wear it. And I do agree, it's like a sign of respect to the club, and it's just kind of fun.
I agree. I would just canal joining a club with bad kit. Early in my cycling career, I'll call it, when I first started getting into road riding and first started doing group rides, I rode with the club with a lot of nice people. It was a great introduction to learning sort of the ins and outs of road riding. There was no pressure to buy the team kit, and I'm really glad I didn't, because it was ugly. I would canal clubs that can't just either hire a designer or find, you almost 100% work with somebody who works in advertising and knows a graphic designer. If you're a cyclist, you can find somebody who can throw together a good kit design pretty easily, make a good kit worth buying. And then, yeah, I think of a club ride, yeah, that's the whole, it's like if you're racing on an amateur team, you're going to wear your team kit, and it's an amateur race. So it's like, I don't know, club kit sort of feels the same. Why wouldn't you wear it?
Jack Roo, baby. Okay, that's it. Another episode of Cycling Fashion Week in the books. Thank you, Skyler. Thank you, Italian Alex. Thank you, Warren. Great episode today. Thank you to our elite listeners, all thousands of you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for putting up with the long delays between episodes. We've been a little bit busy outside of the podcast recently, but we are still here, and we will continue to put out episodes. We'll be back in a few weeks with more Cycling Fashion Week content. And please, again, do send us your DMs at Cycling Fashion Week on Instagram. Please send us your Canal submissions. We love getting them from listeners. We haven't gotten many of them recently, but please do send us your Canal submissions. Love getting the voice notes too. So if you send that, we can maybe play it on the podcast at Cycling Fashion Week on Instagram.
And Spandex Sunday. Don't forget about that. Send us your fit pics.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. See you soon.